We are here on the set of a new Spiritist film. This film will be our Christmas gift made especially for you. Can you tell us when the premiere will be?
Yes, in January 2026.
Wow, the premiere is very close. That's right, it's an early Christmas present.
Is it a film based on true stories?
Of course, it was taken from the Spiritist magazine of 1859.
How does it feel to play the main role?
For me, it is an honor, and I am very grateful for it. The film tells the true story of a man who claimed through mediumship that he came from another planet.
Stay tuned, another super production from TV Espíritos is coming soon.
Hello, today in our year-end special, the honoree will be The Spirits book by Allan Kardec. TV Espíritos turned 5 years old in 2025, studying this book weekly. The program is presented every Monday at 9 p.m. by Darny Oliveira from Bahia and Max Lanio from Brasilia. The question we chose is number 905 and aired on November 20, 2023. Some authors have published very beautiful
And morally elevated works that help the progress of humanity, but from which they themselves have not benefited.
Before the answer given by the spirits, let's look at some examples given by Max Lano.
We remember Divaldo, when Divaldo Franco says to Joanna, "Oh, my sister, you don't write for me, you write for everyone, but you don't bring any message for me." And she says, "Oh, my son, all the messages are for you, then they are for others, right?" So that means, who is the receiver of the message that comes from the highest? This message is first for him. There is a case that happened in a Spiritist, and this case is real. It says that there was a speaker who was very good at speaking. He had excellent verbal skills. He had very good magnetism. And this speaker always had some people who attended because they literally followed his teachings, which were very faithful to the Spiritist doctrine and true to the gospel, Nepompo. And there was a gentleman who was the humblest in the Spiritist Center where this happened. He was responsible for cleaning. And the speaker always noticed that he was attending the lecture. And one day the speaker noticed that he was no longer there. And he learned that the gentleman had passed away. And then in a certain mediumistic communication that came, in which the speaker participated, he would have received the spirit of this benefactor, and more precisely, of this humble gentleman. And this humble gentleman was now a benefactor in the spiritual world. And then he was impressed because he was a simple person responsible for cleaning gut. And when he passed away, he was told that he was in a prominent position in the spiritual world with regard to doing God's will. Then he asked how he had arrived at his goal, since his activity was so simple. He said, "My son, I simply followed everything you said. I put into practice what you taught me, and I thank you deeply for that."
Now let's look at the answer given by the spirits and the comments made by Max Lano.
Morality without actions is the same as a seed without work. In other words, he was just a messenger. He delivered the work, but he didn't live the work he delivered. He wasn't the bearer of the work himself. He was just a deliverer. He transmitted it from one to another, but he didn't put that morality he was delivering into practice. And the benefactors are saying that this is the same as a seed without work. That is, he didn't cultivate that seed in his own heart so that it would germinate, so that it would blossom, flourish, and then bear its fruits. And that these fruits would essentially be the fruits of goodness itself, And then, the benefactor who answered this question was more thought-provoking. He says of it, "What good is the seed to you if you do not make it bear fruit to nourish you?" So this writer, he will be hungry for moral elevations that he didn't know how to nourish himself with when they were in his own hands. He didn't know how to transform the seed into the granary that would later be necessary to nourish his soul. So he would have a loss for himself that he himself chose to inflict upon himself, even though others, like the case we told of the Lord who cleaned a center, he benefited. So he himself didn't have the treasure in his hand and didn't know how to use it. In other words, the benefactor who answers this question says that the guilt of these men is grave because they possess the intelligence to understand. So you see, the benefactor is exclusively focused on, in analyzing the case of the person who possessed the treasure and didn't know how to use it. He possessed a superior resource and didn't know how to use it. He's not taking into account the benefit he generated for others. Why? Because he was just a messenger. In this case, probably, as we said in the two examples we cited of someone who received through mediumship, he didn't have direct participation in the matter. We are assuming that the benefactor who answered this question is walking this path. So, if he had this responsibility, he had the intelligence to understand it, and didn't want to accept it as his own. It was a personal decision. And by not practicing the maxims he offered to others, he renounced them. He renounced reaping the fruits. That is, it will be taken into account in the spiritual world, of course, because it's much better than him having done nothing. He was at the very least a giver, and we are admitting here that he delivered something that he didn't own. He was, in fact, a messenger. Now, if he already delivered that, it's good, but he didn't make the fruits sprout within himself that he will need to reap later for his own sustenance. So this is a very delicate question in reasoning, isn't it? We need to be very careful because it gives the impression, if you only read this question here, with this answer, that nothing was worthwhile because he wrote good morals or high morals that served others, but didn't serve himself. Yes, certainly, he was already in a condition where he was serving in an anonymous way, let's call it that, from the point of view of his essence. But he wasn't serving himself.
In the case of Jesus, we might ask, does he share the same perspectives as the spirits who spoke to Kardec?
Let your yes be yes, and your no, no. For whatever is more than that comes from evil. When you have to speak like that and you want to give vent to things you want and you say exactly the no, that should be the opposite. You are leading people and yourself down the wrong path. When you should say no, because it was inconvenient, you say it to yourself and to others, and you influence others with what you say and do. You end up leading yourself down the path that our dear Jesus called evil. Therefore, people, evil is the absence of good. When a person doesn't fulfill God's will, doesn't say what they have to say, doesn't live what they have to live, they end up getting lost along the way.